So here we are, the next step. We just ordered up wheels and tires because this car is ready. Well, it's been ready for wheels and tires for a little bit, but I was holding off on doing that because I didn't really need them at the time. So now that we got the engine and transmission in, we got the transmission bolted in, it was time to order up some wheels and tires. We decided not to wait any longer. So I'll kind of show you what we've ordered. There's question. So in doing the research on the wheels and tires, these are the questions that arise. Can you fit the 10-inch wheel in the back on the rear end? And the question is yes, if you have the right rear end. No, if you don't have the right rear end. And in talking with some people who have built these cars before, their explanation, so the donor of this car is a 96 Mustang GT. That rear end in the back of that car has a certain width because it came from the factory that way. I think it's, and believe if I understand correctly, 99 and later, they changed and the rear end became wider. So if you have a 99 and later solid rear end, it's not going to fit a 10-inch. You have to shorten the housing itself. Anything before that, up to a 98, they say those are the best donors. That's what I've been told. So I have a 96, obviously, like I said, so that fits the 10-inch in the rear. Now, in thinking about it, at first I was like, you know what, even though I can fit it, do I want to go with the 10-inch in the rear, or do I want to do a square setup, 9-inch all the way around? Even though the general consensus is the design of the car is for the 10-inch wide wheel. That's the way it looks the best. Now, I was thinking maybe I don't want so much tire in the back to start with, but on late model restoration, you can order a set of wheels and tires that come mounted, balanced, ready to go, and it comes with the 10-inch rear. They don't offer that package with the 9-inch rear. You have to order each wheel individually and then order tires individually and whatever. They won't come all together. If you order it as a kit, it comes wheels and tires mounted, balanced, everything ready to go. So made it simple, went that way. Let me show you. So this is the front of, you can see the dishing here is not as wide. This is the driver's side wheel. It's a directional tire. This is a Nitto NT555. My only experience with Nitto tire has actually been on that truck there that you see sitting here. When it was lowered, I put a 255 on a 17-inch wheel, and then eventually went to a BF Goodrich, and there was a significant softness difference when I went to the BF Goodrich, and I liked the BF Goodrich better. It's been a while though. That was like 2003. Been a while. Haven't ever had any experience with these NT555s. Most of the cars I get to drive, I run a Michelin or Pirelli or something, or Goodyear, or Falcons. So I don't have any experience with Nitto that much on a road car. Or even an off-road car. So I can't really speak for the tire itself. They also offer a more competitive, more like a, we went in a direction of I didn't want to go with the tire. So I'm just gonna, see how these are, and what the grip is like, what I feel like. When I'll do, obviously that will become with the driving part of it. So this is it. This is the front wheel on the car. 17-inch. Why 17-inch? I don't know. I want more tire sidewall. I want, and because the 16-inch stock wheel did not clear the brake. These are 13-inch Cobra brakes. It did not clear the brake caliper on the 16-inch wheel. So the stock GT did not clear it. It touched it, so it wouldn't rotate. Now you can see, obviously, this wheel rotates just fine. And it actually, if you look, actually fits in there, and I think it looks spot on. In my opinion, this is my opinion. Now this is the rear. This is the passenger side rear. You can see obviously a way bigger lip there on the wheel because it's a 10-inch wheel. That's the side profile there. So if you look on Late Model Restoration's website, there's notes below this wheel package. One of the notes is that you might have to remove, if you have quad shock, you might have to remove the quad shock or flip it around. I didn't do that here, and you can see, if you look here, there's plenty of space. It's not even gonna rub at all. So with this rear end, 96 Mustang GT, I can slide, no problem. I didn't even have to flip it around or nothing. So, you know, that's a plus in my book. I wanna keep that as stock as possible because I don't wanna mess with the variables, right? I wanna, you know, keep that. But you can see that's a pretty wide. This is a 315 rear tire, 275 in the front. So lots of tire on this thing in the front and the rear. And with, you know, you see center line of the axle right there and where the engine is. I mean, handling dynamics, it should be pretty good. And, you know, short wheelbase obviously, but this thing should handle pretty good. But that's where we're at now. You know, this wheel and tire combination does work. I knew that the 17-inch wheel would work because I had a Mustang 96 Cobra with a 17-inch wheel, and it cleared that brake. So I wouldn't see why it wouldn't clear this brake, but you know, obviously, you're gonna question it until you try it. This is the stock wheel here, just that basic Mustang, and it doesn't clear. As you can see on that side, I don't have the brake caliper on right now because I had to roll it and then didn't want to roll. So yeah, there's that for now. Trying to think. Oh yeah, okay, so the other part, I've decided to go the route, and this is just part of this video. You won't get to see if it actually works or not until later, but I've taken the wiring harness, the engine harness that's going to go, so the box, there's a powertrain controller here, the ECU, the part that connects to here, that wiring harness, all that. I've taken it to this guy who dyes a harness. He says he gets 50 pounds out of the harness. 50 pounds to me is a lot, but that's how much wiring he says he gets out of it. And the benefit of that is he said I will be able to plug and play it when I get back. I just have to connect it. This is the Ron Francis harness here. I just have to splice it into that harness and we should be good to go. I wanted to simplify that process. I also got a recommendation to go with the Ron Francis Tellervec system. The problem with that is it comes, if you've seen it, it's got a big box, like a hub that all the wires come back to. Every wire is going to be brand new. It has all the relays and stuff on there, but now you have to find space for the box. Some people put it in the trunk because it comes with a lot of wiring. You can mount it in pretty much anywhere on the car, but now you have this big box that you have to try to mount, and I didn't want to do that. So that's why I ended up deciding to go with the wire diet guy. So we'll see. Later in the video, you'll get to see how that works out. But yeah, this is it for the wheels and tires. You know, that's a kit in a way. And these are, so style of the wheel wise, 5-spoke Saline SC. I just thought that would be a good Cobra, just would be cool on a Cobra. I don't think I've ever seen it before. So this might be the first Cobra that I've ever seen with a Saline SC wheel on it. I've always liked those wheels, and that's why I decided to go with them on this car here. And so there's some other cool, if you go on lmr.com, there's some other cool wheel and tire packages. But this was the best in black, 17-inch, and they had it available. So that was the other thing too, it had to be available. But yeah, luckily that worked out. So yeah, stay tuned for more updates later. And hopefully get this thing on its wheels and going soon. At least fired up, so there's a video on that. That might be one of the next ones. So yeah, we'll see. All right, let me show you what I did after I installed the wheels and tires. Got a little further. I put because the next step after, well, wheels and tires wasn't really a step in it. So now I'm going back to the manual, and I have just, you know, I installed that transmission A-frame. So now I'm moving on. They want you to tackle, now it seems like everything is about getting the engine ready to run. So the next step is to put the grounding strap. There's a bolt or a hole here on the passenger side engine mount, and that's the grounding strap, and it goes to the mount on the block there. Put one of the old nuts from that I took off the old mount back on there to hold it, and then you got to grind off the powder coat too, and then there's 2 circles on the rear tray here, and so this one that's the battery mount in the middle. So what I'm going to do is ground is going to go to this one, and then the other one you drill the hole with a hole saw, and then you run the positive cable up through the transmission, right side of the transmission tunnel, and then to where the starter is on the bell housing. Then the next step after that is drive shaft, and you can see here I got a drive shaft. It turns. Now I had my drive shaft shortened. I know some people buy the drive shaft already shortened, and I don't know if the guy who shortened mine made it a little longer, but with it sitting, so I have it sitting almost like it was sitting on the ground. So, well, in the rear anyway. The rear suspension is pushed. I have it sitting on the axle. So the rear suspension is at its like ride height setting back here. And I could not get the drive shaft to go, the nut of the yoke of the, the pad on the pinion wouldn't let me put the drive shaft on. So I tried, okay, let me lift the frame of the car, get it to get the axle to settle down a little bit. The problem is that the limiting cable strap here was keeping it from going down far enough. So it wasn't enough travel. So what I did was I took the bolts out of each of those cables, the limiting cables, and then it let me drop it down far enough to where I could slide it up onto that. And then put the bolts in. And bolts were kind of, I think the threads, either I used an old set of threads on the yoke, or they just were kind of messed up because it was kind of tough to put some of the bolts in. But got it in there. So now my rear end is connected. Everything is connected. So all the drivetrain is now connected. And I'm going to focus on going further into the manual, which is after you do. So this is where I just did. You go, I need to get a battery, but next is, for me anyway, is going to be headers and J-pipes. So that'll be the next step, which I'm going to do. I'll do that next time. So yeah, there's that for this time. Oh, the other thing, so here, if you do a new clutch cable, you need to bolt it to the firewall here. So I went and got a small little bolt, drilled a hole, bolted it there, and then I'm going to make like a little bracket. I think I was reading online some people move this, but I was thinking about making a little bracket that would just kind of angle it onto there, so it would have something to hold on. That way because I got a nice curve in it, and I kind of want to keep that curve. So what I think I'm going to do first is I'm going to install as much as I can on the accessories wise and see if it interferes, and if it doesn't, I'm going to put make a little bracket, little L bracket that's gonna hold that on. But that's pretty much it for now. There you go. On to the next part. Hopefully my wiring harness is done soon and I can get it back and see if it works. So that's where I'm at. So until next time.